Sandy Krebs, but you can call me Chef Viva Vegana. In these videos, I'll be sharing with you how anyone can make delicious vegan food. So, let's cook. Chef Viva Vegana here. Today I'd like to share my recipe for vegan pad thai ew with you. So, let's cook. I love pad thai ew, and when I became vegan, I needed to develop a vegan version of this recipe for myself. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. Before we jump into the recipe, I'm going to show you a few products you may not be familiar with. The first product I want to show you is the noodles that we use for the pad thai ew. It's a wide rice noodle, much wider than what you use for pad thai. I just stuck this towel behind here so I was sure you could read this writing on the package. You find these in the refrigerated section of pretty much any Asian grocery store. The next product I want to show you is cane vinegar. You can also find this in Asian grocery stores. It's really inexpensive and it has a really distinct flavor. The next product I'm going to show you is a vegan oyster sauce, if you will. There's several different brands that you can find. Most of them say vegetarian on the label, although they are vegan. So you'll want to be sure and read the labels just to make sure. But this is a really good substitute for oyster sauce in vegan recipes. The last product I'm going to show you that you'll get from the Asian grocery store is Chinese broccoli. This is in the same family as the American version, but it's got these big leaves on it, and these stalks are also part of what we'll be using in the recipe. And lastly, Bolete Mushrooms. I get these from Spice Jungle. It's an online spice and specialty food item retailer. They're not paying me to plug them, but they have great prices, really good customer service. Their shipping time is really fast, and these bolete mushrooms are delicious. They're like a poor man's morel, and you could substitute fresh cremini or portobello mushrooms in this recipe, but I highly recommend trying to lay your hand on some of these bolete mushrooms for the recipe. They're just a really intense, earthy flavor that add a lot to the dish. The very first thing we're going to do is take a half a cup of the dried bolete mushrooms and pour a cup of boiling water over them. We'll want to set these aside while we're preparing the rest of the dish, and when we drain them, we're going to reserve the liquid to use in the sauce. These are the wide rice noodles. You can find them in the refrigerated section of pretty much any Asian market. You could also substitute other cooked noodles in the pad thai ew recipe, but this is the authentic type of noodle for a pad thai ew. They're literally going to be cooking in this boiling water for about 30 seconds before we pour them in the colander and rinse them with cold water. then the last thing we're going to do is put these in very cold water and set them aside till we're ready to use them so they don't stick together. Next, we'll prepare the Chinese broccoli to saute. What we're gonna do is cut off the very ends, just like you would if you were using any other broccoli. And then we're going to cut these stems into about 1.5 inch pieces, and then we'll leave the rest of this with the leaves and the thinner part of the stem intact. One of the traditional ingredients in a pad see ew is scrambled eggs, but since we're not using eggs, we're going to make scrambled tofu to put in the dish. So this is a 1/2 block of firm tofu. You could use the back of a spoon or a potato masher to mash it, but I prefer doing it with my hands. I think it's more effective, and I just kind of like playing with my food. You don't want to crumble it to where it's just mush, but you don't want any really big pieces left in there either. That looks good. It will continue to crumble a little bit when we cook it in the pan with the other ingredients. I've got the stove set to medium-high, and I'm going to add about a tablespoon of oil to the hot pan, and then we're going to add the Chinese broccoli that we prepared. This is filling up the pan right now, but it will reduce in size significantly in just a minute. I'm gonna take all of this out of the pan and set it aside to add back in later. We're gonna add about another tablespoon of oil to the pan. And now we're going to make the scrambled tofu. I'm adding a clove of garlic and the 1/2 block of crumbled tofu. I'm just going to add a tablespoon of water, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, 1 teaspoon of vegetable bouillon powder. I'm going to turn the heat off now. And 1 tablespoon of nutritional yeast. And we're just going to mix all this together. And we're also going to set this aside to add into the dish later. For the final stage of this dish, I've got a clean, very large saute pan. I took the dried mushrooms out of the water after about 10 minutes and just very roughly chopped them, and we're reserving this liquid to use in the sauce. Now that the pan is hot, we're going to add about a tablespoon of oil to start with. We're going to add another tablespoon in just a couple minutes. To this, we're adding 1 large clove of garlic, about a 1/2 inch of ginger chopped. That's the equivalent of about a tablespoon. And 1 yellow onion, very thinly sliced. We're going to saute this for about 5 minutes until the onion is really well browned, and then we're going to add some more ingredients in. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of dried red chili pepper flakes If you don't like your food quite as spicy, you can add half a teaspoon, or you could just eliminate it altogether. And the half a cup of the bolete mushrooms that have been rehydrated and roughly chopped. I'm gonna add the other tablespoon of oil in now, right before we add the noodles. The noodles are gonna stick to the pan anyways, but we will use the liquid to deglaze the pan and unstick the noodles. I'm gonna get a stiffer spatula now, and we're adding in a 1/4 cup of the cane vinegar, a 1/4 cup of white cooking wine, and the liquid we reserved from rehydrating the mushrooms. You'll leave the very bottom part of the liquid where there's some of the sediment in the bowl. And we're just going to take this stiffer spatula and scrape or deglaze the bottom of the pan to get all that onion and garlic and mushroom goodness that's stuck to the bottom of the pan incorporated into the sauce. And lastly, we're gonna add the 1/3 of a cup of vegan oyster sauce or mushroom sauce. We're gonna add the Chinese broccoli back in now. And the very last thing we're going to do is add in our scrambled tofu. And there you have it, vegan pad see ew. I hope you enjoy making this vegan pad see ew. This is one of those dishes that when you feed it to non-vegans, they say they could become vegan if they could eat food like this all the time. So I hope you enjoyed the recipe. I hope you'll like and share the video, and I especially hope that you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. So until next time, let's cook.